歡迎大家嚟到深海遊頻道，我係林寶森。今日咧就向大家介紹一下咧航能呢個機構，佢係一個咧慈善機構，就專係幫弱智或者係殘疾人士咧，等到佢哋有機會咧可以出海揸帆船嘅，係一個好特別嘅機構啦。咁佢哋已經有15年嘅歷史㗎啦。咁呢次咧係訪問咧係用英文嘅，咁就會配上咧中文字幕。咁我哋會咧拍佢哋咧今日係一齊咧出海，同埋有一個小型嘅比賽嘅。Today we are interviewing Ms. Kay Rawbone, the co-founder of Sailability. Can you tell us a little bit about Sailability, how it first started?
Well, Sailability started in Hong Kong in 2009. My husband and I were both members of Hebe Haven Yacht Club, and it was a time when the government were looking to get more people into private clubs. And it was brought up at one of the General Committee meetings, and Mike said, well, Kay and I can think of something. I'd had some of my students here, I worked with special needs adults here, and had brought them down to the club that day, actually. It was as if fate was happening, you know, why had I done that on that day? And then this was brought up in the conversation. And Mike came home and told me about it, and I said, well, great, we'll start something like Sailability in the UK. So we went to them the next day, as we do. We are very quick to change things. And we were told that we could start a Sailability here. They had 3 other overseas places at the time with the RYA, but suggested we started with people with physical disability. Now, my job, as I said, was working with special needs adults, and I said to Mike, no, we'll start with my students. They want to sail, and we'll show people what they can do and not what they can't do. And from there, we've grown to be where we are today. Our vision was to make sailing accessible to everyone. And I don't think we really realised what that meant. We did in our own minds. We wanted it to be available to everyone. But we didn't realise the scale or the impact that Sailability would bring to Hong Kong. So I think we have grown beyond our wildest dreams, and we have done more than we thought we were going to do. We are very local, which was another thing we wanted it to be. And it's just been an amazing journey with so much support from Hebe Haven Yacht Club as well, you know, which is our home. To me, it's the truly only accessible and inclusive club in Hong Kong for sailing. So, you know, big thank you to Hebe and the people that have supported us.
呢一個時段咧，都有10幾隻小船咧係準備出去練習嘅。稍後咧，我哋就會跟佢嘅充氣橡皮艇咧一齊出去嘅。咁你會見到我哋後邊咧係一連串咧有6隻小艇嘅。咁我哋第一樣嘢做嘅咧就係將小艇咧帶到離開咗浮橋。準備嗰個比賽開始啦，一個模擬嘅比賽啦。其實呢個都係比較屬於練習性質居多嘅一個模擬比賽嚟嘅。
1 minute time to go. Practice for starting.
See what happens with our people today. We have people with disability that come along as volunteers. So when they come and they can work properly and take responsibility, they then move up into volunteer mode, so that they then grow within that position, and it really helps them. I don't like labels. We've seen other people within our organisation, and one of them has just become an instructor. He came in 2019 with ADHD, then went on to the club to do some further training, then went on to the Sports Institute, sailed for Hong Kong, did coaching, and also now he's an instructor. So I like pathways for people and for them to improve, not just stay static where they are, to have improvement.
Ooh, well done.
It's very sensory, and they can spend, these two boys especially, can spend hours on the water.
Sure.
You know, when you've got autism, this sensory motion.
Yeah.
And they all sail together, and then we can have different rankings. These boats are just so pretty, and when we enter things when we're away and you've got 100 of these boats on the water, it's just a sight to be seen and to be witnessed. It really is beautiful. And the beauty of those races is that we have able people sailing against people with various disabilities, whether it's physical, onset conditions or intellectual impairment. We all sail together, which is great. It's really inclusive, and that's the bit I like, is the inclusivity. But it makes people feel more part of the community, to be sailing alongside anybody else.
What are the main types of boats that are owned and operated by Sailability?
A Hansa class. Hansa class, no, this is Hansa, H-A-N-S-A. The Hansa class is made by an organisation, a company in Australia, and they are of universal design. So within that class we have 3 different designs. We have a 2.3, which is a very basic boat, very similar to an Optimist. It has 1 sail. We have a 303, which is 3.3 metres long. It has 2 sails. It has a main sail and a jib, and was a Paralympic class at one time. And then we have a Liberty, a Hansa Liberty, which can be sailed by quadriplegics. So it can be sailed by able people, sailed by people with disability, but also, as I said, quadriplegics and those that need to use servo to sail. Then on top of that, we have a 2.4 MR, which is an open class. 80% of these boats in the world are owned by people without disability. So it's a great class for people to attend with disability, and there are many, many stories about that, too many stories for me to tell you. Then we have 9 of those. And what we wanted to do when we started was to have progression, so that people could progress within our fleet and do better and better and better. They can go from one thing to another. The Hansa fleet that we have, being of universal design, are acceptable within the Education Bureau within Hong Kong, because they do not capsize. So they are safe. It means that children from schools with really high support needs can come and sail with us. We train parents, we train our volunteers to be able to get them on the water. And we use sailing as a therapy, in many instances as a therapy and rehabilitation. Then we have some enterprises that we are renovating. Mike and I were both enterprise sailors, so we have those so that we can also introduce our sailors to different types of sailing. And we have 4 safety boats. And I'm sitting on a wooden chair here, and I will touch wood as I say, all our boats have been donated. So thank you very much to everybody that sponsored our boats.
And you also actually have a Solaris
Yes.
40 in the fleet.
Yes, we do.
Yeah?
We do.
That is the biggest boat
That's the biggest boat we have.
owned by Sailability.
It is. We have sponsors for that. We're looking for sponsors all the time because we are a charity. But no, it's opened up a new sort of chapter in what we were doing. So taking people from sailing either solo or double in our boats to being part of a bigger team in a boat. We also have certain rules within the boat because we have people with disability on board where I don't like differences. So where on many big boats people do not wear buoyancy aids or life jackets, we insist that everybody on board wears them so that there are no differences. And that's one thing that I think is very, very special about what we do. I grew up in a family that didn't see any differences, and we were always out there to do things very positive. I'm not a negative person, very positive, and through our lives together, Mike and I had certain hurdles we had to overcome. One of it was our son at age 6 had leukemia. So that was one of those things, and I think it just makes you stronger people. So I was brought up as a child that you can do things, you can try things. And I brought that to Hong Kong with me, and when I worked within the special needs area here, I used to say to my students who'd say, oh, I can't do that. And I used to say, no, there's no, and there's no can't in my vocabulary. And we find a way to do things. And even my students used to say to me, Kay, there's no can't in my vocabulary, is there? And I'd say no. And we find a way to do it. And I think this has gone through now. It's one of our sort of taglines. And we do. Within what we do, we find how to do it. If somebody phones up and said, we would like to do this, yes, we will do it. We've done end of life for people. We don't say no. We just look at it and see how we can support the people that come to us.
It's very inspiring.
Hello.
Not remember me? Not remember me?
Are you guys open to just kids from all backgrounds?
Oh yes,
So
everybody.
even if they don't have disabilities?
Yes, yes. Well, they don't. These don't.
Right.
None of these have disabilities. They're from low-income backgrounds,
Ah,
ethnic minority. We've got Sri Lankan and Filipino basically in here.
Right.
So many of these are helpless children.
yeah.
So they've come through the Cyclone District Community Centre.
Ah,
So it's all come through there, and we're now on our second group. The ones with the blue shirts are our first group. It shows the inclusivity that we're not just working with boats that don't capsize
right.
with
Right.
people with physical disability. It shows that we're helping different parts of the community. Well, when we go back to the start, I wanted to use my students that were young adults with learning disability or special needs, and we had to choose 4. We put a group of people together to run this program, and we brought 10 or 12 down, and with the help of the club and sail training, we took them out on a safety boat and put them with a member of staff who would act as a guide and a support for the person or the young adult with disability to be on a boat with instructors. So they went out on bahias. We didn't have our own boats at this time. So they went out, and from that 10 or 12 that we brought down, we chose 4. And that was Sean, Joshua, Alexandra and Greg. Out of those 4, 2 still sail with us. Sadly, one of them passed away, the other one lives in Australia. I also had 4 of my staff trained up at Nesbitt Centre where I was working, which is an organisation for special needs adults, and had them trained up to level 1 and level 2. Then in 2010, we had an invite from the Hansa people from Australia. They've been up to Qingdao and were trying to introduce their boats up there after the Beijing Olympics. And the general manager at the time had invited them down to meet Mike and I here. And we met them and we were shown some films. And one was a quadriplegic sailing a boat by herself. And she had a button on a helmet here, and that controlled the main sheet and the steering for her, because all she could move was her head. And Mike and I said, oh my goodness, we will buy the first 2 boats. So we bought the first 2 boats. And it was as if it was fate, because the numbers for the boats were allocated in Australia. It was a production number. So the HKG production number. So when our boats came in, the first one was my husband's year of birth, 1944. The second one was the Commodore of the club, who was my husband's best friend, 1945. And we thought, how's this happened? Nobody knew these dates of birth. You know, this has to be. And then from there, we just grew and grew. Mike had his own construction HR company at the time, so he wrote out to many of his contacts and said, Kay and I have started a charity, buy us a boat. You can choose the boat, you can choose the colour, you can choose the name. And boats were coming in left, right and centre, which was great. But also we were getting known within the special needs schools at that time. So up until 2013, we were mainly dealing with people with special needs through schools. And our sailing continued. They loved the boats. For me, the boats enabled them to be sailing by themselves without having an instructor in there. I wanted them to have more independence and be able to learn and not rely on other people to be in the boat with them. And the Hansa boats were doing this. And then in 2013, we were coming to sailing one Saturday, and we had a phone call from somebody in Canada to say, you've got Hansa 2.3s and 303s, haven't you? Would you like to be part of the Asian Para Games? Because sailing is in it. And we never say no. So of course, yes, we were going to go into this. And we said yes, that we would. And then Korea, where it was going to be, announced that it wasn't the 2.3, it was a 2.4 MR, which is the single-handed technical boat. So we went out to people that we knew and said that we wanted to go into the Asian Para Games. Could they buy us some boats? So Victoria Lodge bought us our first one, and we had the other 2 via Operation Santa Claus.
You still have the same boat?
Yes, we still have the same boats. And then we hadn't got many people with physical disability at that time, because these were the people that we were looking for, parasailors. So we had a recruitment evening, which went out to Children's Cancer Foundation and also to the Paralympics. And we had many Paralympians from other sports were interested in learning to sail. So they came along, and from that, we introduced them to the different boats. They started off in the 303s, the Hansa 303s, and then those that were showing ability and promise in the sailing, we then transferred them to the 2.4s when they came in. Now we had a very short time span from June 2013 to October 2014 to get our sailors up to scratch. But we did it, and we won a bronze medal in the 2.4, which really put us on the map. It was absolutely amazing. And then from that, we'd been before into world sailing competitions, and we were seen as being quite dynamic and getting a big fleet together, opening up to the community. The RYA came out, they did volunteer stuff with us, and we just grew and grew and grew. And then after that, COVID came. Fortunately, we were able to open up during COVID, so we carried on with the sailing. And we've got just many milestones. Sadly, my husband passed away in 2020 during COVID. It wasn't COVID, but during that time. But people really rallied round and carried on the support. And I think he guides me from above, you know, he doesn't let me have any time to myself. Sailability has taken over. But we have been in many, many competitions. We've watched people grow. We've reached out to many, many parts of the community. In 2019, we had Sun and Kai, the Scallywag Foundation, came on board with us. And they offer sailing for what we class as the underrepresented, which helped us then to open up to low-income, ethnic minority, people that just couldn't afford to sail, as well as some of the schools, you know, where they've got limits on costs for different types of sports. But since then, we've also have programs in the school curriculum where they see the benefits of it, which is great. And we just keep growing and reinventing different types of things to do. World Sailing became inclusive a couple of years ago. We've been very inclusive from the start. Within World Sailing, we have a para sailing group, which are people with physical disability who go through classification. So we have classifiers, and this is all part of working to try and get back into the Paralympics. So they are classified with a physical disability. But we have opened up now, and World Sailing are doing what we're doing now to other parts of the community. So people with intellectual impairment, that is also coming under the classification system now, which is great. We had somebody in Australia in March who came second with his helper in the intellectual impairment class of a World Sailing competition, as well as winning a World Sailing competition with one of our parasailers as well. Then the others, the inclusiveness that we have is anybody can sail. And that's, we bring able people to sail. We bring people from the ethnic community. We bring people from, irrespective of age, irrespective of gender. We try and promote more females on the water. We did a webinar this year as part of the Women's Sailing Festival, which has been running for 5 years. We have supported that with the club. And Sailability on its own have brought 600 women over those 5 years during a short period of time each year, and had those women on the water. So we are irrespective of ability, age, ethnicity, race, gender, sexual orientation, and social status.
Excellent.
Yeah. So anybody, we don't say no. For me, I'd like to take what we do in Hong Kong out to the rest of Asia and out to the rest of the world. We are being asked a lot of questions at the moment, is how we do what we do. And within Asia, I will be doing a video type thing to say how we have done what we've done. But for me, my vision would be to have a small Sailability. You don't have to be as big as we are, but a small Sailability in every yacht club, which would then become inclusive. It allows accessibility to more people, but also it's an educational thing to educate people to the abilities of people with life challenges so that they have an understanding. And when you see what we do at Hong Kong, which you have here at Hebe Haven, we've got a range of sailors here that are mixing from age 7 up to 92, and to have that. So we have a generational sailing club as well. But being in a club on your own, we're not educating people into working and accepting people with differences. And that to me is the most important thing.
How do people get involved with Sailability as volunteer or as trainees?
It's very easy. Over the last few years, we had some funding from the Hong Kong Club Foundation, which started off as senior volunteering program. This has now been added to by the government in Hong Kong through the Partnership Fund. So we are still looking for some people of seniors. Some of them hopefully will be lower income. We can give the opportunity to sail, but from those people, we then train them, if they want to become volunteers. Now, for me to be a volunteer, we're adding an extra element into their life. We are giving them something to think about, an opportunity that they've never had, to work with other people. And with older people, I think that to have new stories and meet new people, it's very important. To hang around with young people, I think, keeps you younger, instead of hanging around with elderly people all the time. For younger people, when we have people come and they join a group, and an example that I'm going to use is an ADHD association group we had last year, and I come down and I try and meet all the groups that we have, even though I don't speak Cantonese, but I try and speak. You don't always need words. And I say, if any of you want to come back and volunteer, then come back. From that group, we have 2 young people with ADHD who are here every week. Sometimes just on Saturdays, sometimes Saturdays and Sundays. They're helping now with a group with one of our volunteers who's doing a PhD study on sailability. And these 2 young people show no ADHD. We're taking labels away. I talked about this earlier. They're coming along and they're supporting other people, and they are growing in their roles. Our volunteers go from age 10 up to 80, our volunteers. And again, it's this generational thing. We don't look at ability, but we try and grow ability, if you understand. Does that make sense? To give people opportunities that they've never had. And as you know, as a sailor, sailing is a therapeutic sport, and it shows now to be one of the most inclusive sports in the world to me, with the involvement and the way we've seen it grow. I mean, if you want more information, please have a look at our Facebook. That's kept up to date. There's lots of information on there, and go on the website and things like that. We're always looking for people to support us, as we said, volunteers, and also sponsors, for us to continue to be able to do what we do. We will be opening up next year to maybe an event here where we open up to China to come down. It'll be either the Asia Pacifics or the Southeast Asians, hopefully to get world sailing here. And Mr. Chan Hai Lee, I hope, who is a friend of mine, I hope he's watching this, and he'll come down here. We also have a very good sailor in China who has just done the Vendée Globe, Jackie Ju, who sailed with us here in 2017. So we'd love to invite them back here. But just contact us. We're very open.